You in your office today, John?
Yeah, downtown.
Yep.
The farm is about 20 miles south of here, and I write there every morning and then come to town around midday for stuff like this, and of course for lunch, and that's the most important part. And
Yeah.
and kind of enjoy downtown Charlottesville. So yeah, it's not a bad life, guys.
No, well, thankfully you've helped us have a better life too. I was going to say that this event with you is part of our 120th year at Reed's year-long celebration,
Hard to
and
believe.
so
Hard to
so
believe.
thank you for keeping the family business in business this long, and for the family still talking to each other, much less the business still in business.
Who was it? Your great grandfather, right?
Our grandfather,
Your
our
grandfather.
grandfather
Grandfather.
started
Just
1905. He was a
Big Jack's
uh,
father, 1905.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I'm sorry Dad's not here to say hello to you anymore. He was
I'm sorry.
he enjoyed y'all's friendship very much, and
But he would have really messed up the Zoom call, so it wouldn't have worked very well for him.
yeah, he'd probably just be griping that he couldn't get on or something like that. But he did say, I remember him saying during the 2008 recession, he said, our bookstore would be out of business if it wasn't for John Grisham and these signed copies we get to. That was about all we sold for a couple of years here when things were tight. But I was thinking that, or reminding anybody that's watching this too, that you actually did us a huge favor, and your fans, our 100th year in 2005, you came down and spoke at the Lee County Library, and it was Reed's. We said this is our gift to the community, and free appearance. And you still have the record for the most people at the Lee County Library, 700, because that next day the fire department said y'all had way too many people in there, and we're going to have to check it next time. So congratulations on that.
So you'll always have the record.
Got the record. Okay, good. And everybody's safe. We're all safe.
Biggest crowd at the Lee County Library. And then I was going to show you this is, for if you can see it, that's a picture of the young you there, 2005 at the Lee County Library, speaking that night. You look very at ease, very, very handsome, very, very at
Long
ease.
time ago, fellas. Long time ago.
Well, you weren't wearing your glasses. You didn't need to. But then here's the first best memory though.
Yep.
This is the invitation to the book party at Reed's for A Time to Kill.
Yeah.
And you had gotten Willie Morris, pretty darn good person to vouch for you, a powerful courtroom drama.
Yeah, he never read it. He never read the book.
Did he not? I bet he did.
No, he didn't. I was pestering Willie around Oxford back in 1988. The book was coming out. I'd met him. I was still in the legislature. We had a close mutual friend, Ed Perry. And so Ed Perry arranged a dinner with Willie and some others, and I went over, and he knew I was, he knew what I wanted, and he was trying to write, but he was probably drinking too much. But it went on for some time, and then there was another meeting somewhere, maybe another, I don't know, but I was stalking him. Yeah. And finally he said, look, son, I'm going to tell you what Sherwood Anderson told William Faulkner in 1920 in New Orleans. He said, I'll read your damn book if I don't have to, I'll blurb your damn book if I don't have to read it. Okay, fair enough. He said, I'll go one step further. He said, you write the blurbs and I'll sign them. Well, at that point, I was home free. So I wrote several blurbs, a stunning debut, a powerful drama, Willie Morris. Willie never saw it. And then when the book came out, he didn't read the book. And I didn't hear from Willie until The Firm came out. 2 years later, when The Firm came out, Willie wanted 10% of all my earnings because he blurbed A Time to Kill. That was Willie. We loved him.
Yeah. We were lucky enough to have Willie at the Gumtree bookstore here too, for his books. And what a wonderful soul. I know you spoke at his one of the eulogies, I think.
It was a great funeral. He would have been proud. William Styron, David Halberstam, William Winter, all these great New York writers that he had worked with over the years and was really close to, and he just died too young.
Well, he was one of Mississippi's great literary exports to the world. Certainly a wonderful wordsmith. After that we sent that invitation out, and you showed up. We at the time talking about records, but we had the largest book signing at the time for Time to Kill, 44 books.
44 books.
44 books, and the people that still have those signed first editions, I bet are glad they still do.
Well, you know, the publisher was unknown. Winwood Press was a
Winwood
small,
Press.
brand new startup in New York. Nobody heard of them. All the other publishers had said no twice, at least twice. The agents had said no. Finally, got an agent who went back to made the rounds again, and there were a lot more publishers back then. Everybody said no for the second or third time, and then he found this tiny unknown press because the editor there was a guy he knew, Bill Thompson. And so he convinced Bill Thompson to buy Time to Kill. And they published it. They had no money for promotion, publicity, nothing. They printed 5,000 hardback copies, and I bought 1,000. And I was going to try to make some bucks, doing a wholesale retail thing, like you guys know so well.
Absolutely. Hey, we're the last people in the world that actually sell at retail your books.
And so I suddenly had to sell 1,000 copies of A Time to Kill. And so I went to everybody. I went to Steve Holland, my buddy from Tupelo. We were in the house together. And I said, do you know your librarians? Anybody? He said, sure, let's talk to the Reeds. Talk to the Reeds. We had a speaking engagement that day. It rained like crazy. Went back to the store, sold 44 copies of A Time to Kill. And that was a very good day. Still not a bad day for a book signing.
No, it's not. Listen, there are a lot of first-time authors now that would love to see 44 people come in.
No kidding.
But those were good times. And then, of course, when the Firm came out, and then Tom Cruise, and it began to be like a Michael Jackson concert around here. People would actually at midnight come camp out in front of the bookstore.
Sleep on the sidewalk.
Sleep on the sidewalk so they could be in line to get one of those precious times to meet you. And you would, at least for the first several years, you would even do, happy birthday to John from John, that sort of thing. And then you nice enough to keep coming for 20 years.
With people who are that enthusiastic, I never felt like I could just do an assembly line. So I would stop and talk to people for a few minutes and take photographs and inscribe the books and all that. And you guys were there. There were times we got up to like 10 hours of nonstop signing, and with the Firm, the Pelican Brief, the client, and the Chamber came out in '94, and things at that point had just gotten unbearable because we did a 15-hour signing in Memphis one night at Burke's Bookstore that just was, because it's a much bigger area close to South Haven, where I was from, and it was not any fun. And we said, this can't go on. And so I stopped signing for a while, came back, and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Give out 200 numbers. You got to limit the size of the crowd. And I'll sign 2 books per person. That would take 5 hours, and that's enough for a book signing. But nice problems to have. But it reached a point to where we just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, but you didn't quit signing because you would sign and send to us, which was huge for our business here. We would always get signed copies from you, which is really we can't tell you how much that has meant to the store over the years.
And of course, still does. And your readers. I mean, we've got, I don't know how many, but a lot of people down here in Tupelo in our area, Northeast Mississippi, that have every one of your books signed because of our relationship with them. They're on our mailing list, and it's it's a joy. It's something people are proud of, and I'm sure it's something you're proud of.
Very much so. And listen, when A Time to Kill came out, almost all the bookstores said no. They didn't know me, obviously. They didn't want a new author. And so there were 5 bookstores that said yes. You guys, Richard Holworth at Square Books, John Evans at Lemuria in Jackson, Corey Messler at Burke's in Memphis, and Mary Gay Shipley at the bookstore in Blytheville. Those 5 stores not only said yes, but you open the door and welcome me in and say, hey, come in, let's have a book party. And so when the Firm came out, it was only 18 months later, the Firm had a lot of pressure behind it from the publishers, from the Buzz, from the Booksellers Association, and there was a huge demand from the very beginning. And suddenly I was wanted all over the country because back then book tours were still very common. That's the way you promoted the book. And there were just a lot of demands. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going back to the same 5 stores that opened the doors with The Time to Kill. And to this day, I still sign 2,000 books for you guys, for Richard Holworth, for John Evans, and for Burks in Memphis. Mary Gay closed, 10 years ago. I still sign those 2,000 books every year because, as you say, you've got fans, loyal fans who have every book autographed. And that's why I keep doing it, and I'll always do it.
Well, Jack's made fun of me earlier because I did buy
a lot of things.
Well, a lot of things, but this one happened to be, I did buy a Time to Kill at an estate sale from somebody recently, signed first edition, and he claimed that I was taking advantage of them, but I told him that they got more money than they ever imagined they would get for a book, and I got it for drastically less than it was worth. Seems like a win-win to me.
Don't worry about it. You got the best end of the deal.
That's
just
right.
valuable.
Well, moving on a little bit before we get to the widow. And by the way, I was lucky enough to be hiking in Sicily last week, and I saw in the front page of the front door of the bookstore in Palermo, Sicily, La Vocata, the widow, right there. So I don't know, how many languages do you think you're published in now?
It's over 50.
Ballpark.
The Italians are very enthusiastic. We do very well in Europe. UK is the second biggest market, then Germany, and then France and Italy are close. We do again very well in Western Europe, much less so around the world. The Dutch are incredible. Scandinavians read a lot. Asians not so much, and very little in South America. We're up to 50 some odd languages, and we add one or two every year. I love to collect the foreign editions.
I bet.
Every contract with a foreign publisher states that I get 10 copies of the books. I have 10 copies of 50, whatever, how many books, and I can't store them all. So I box them all up. I send them to the library at Mississippi State where all my stuff goes. They had to build a warehouse to put all the junk in and books in and manuscripts in. So I haven't seen it in some time, but I know it's very well taken care of.
Well,
Hey,
go ahead.
Can I ask you, before we get to the widow, you and I talked briefly about this afterwards, but Framed, your book that you co-authored, that's about true stories of wrongful convictions, I sent you a note that said you can never use these in a novel because they're not believable enough to be fiction. That was one of the most extraordinary books I've ever read. It made me think that if there was a murder in Tupelo and I happened to be in London at the time and came back and they wanted to interview me about it, I better damn well get a lawyer because somehow I'm going to get blamed for it. It was incredible, and I think there's a little bit of that in The Widow as well. Obviously.
Well, the thing about Framed, it's my second work of nonfiction. The first one was The Innocent Man 20 years ago. And that's where I was exposed to wrongful convictions. And I've learned over the years that there's so many innocent people in prison, and most people don't believe that. But it's true. And every wrongful conviction, by the time you go through the process of correcting a wrongful conviction, hopefully freeing the person and exonerating the person who spent 10, 15, 20 years for a crime they had nothing to do with, they're great stories. From a storytelling point of view, they are fantastic stories because of the human suffering. Anytime you have great suffering, you have great stories. It's not always nice. Great drama, injustice, corruption, perseverance, and hopefully exoneration and salvation. Hopefully all those elements are together. And every wrongful conviction could be a great story. I can't write them all. But I published Frame because I wanted to collect 10 of them, 10 of my favorites. And I'm still on the board of the Innocence Project and still working to free the innocents.
Well, congratulations. Thank you for that. And you've done, through your novels, I know you've touched a lot of people who would never have just studied the issue on their own, but through reading your books. I mean, that comes through in several of the threads of several of the books. And, we're talking about the firm. I don't know whether it was chicken or the egg, but the legal thriller in the 90s, I mean, all of a sudden it was on TV, it was in the movies. I mean, you were just riding the crest and you were surfing the highest wave. But I guess just talk a little bit about that, about the timing of what you knew to write about and how that just blossomed.
Uh, Jack, I don't know if it was timing or just plain luck. It happened. What happened in 1987? Scott Turow published Presumed Innocent. And
Great book.
massive book, a great book. He made him rich and famous, and he was on the cover everywhere. Well, went on to become a very good movie with Harrison Ford. It was a huge story, huge book, and that sort of electrified the sleepy genre of legal suspense, legal thrillers. And I came along 4 years later with The Firm, and suddenly everybody's writing books about lawyers, and they still are. That led to a lot of TV shows, and I mean, it all happened at once. It wasn't all because of me or Scott Turow, but we certainly got the interest going and proved that you can make really good movies and TV dramas from books about stories about lawyers and police and detectives, and that's what happened in the early '90s. It's all gone now. I mean, some of those shows are still around, but the movie business is so different now that I have not had a movie made or adapted in 20 years, and all my stuff's for sale. I mean, I
Well, now
love I
there
love
is
to see all adapted.
there is a rumor that you've got the partner might have a deal with Jason Bateman. Is that right?
Well, there's the deal. There was the announcement, and I've lived through many announcements before. All sounded great at the time, and I've learned you never with feature films or television, you never believe anything. You never get excited until they start filming. Because once they start filming, they're spending big bucks and something's going to happen, hopefully good. But up at that point, we had a movie all set to go, Runaway Jury in Biloxi 25 years ago. And at the last minute, we had cast Sean Connery, Gwyneth Paltrow, we had a great script, everything. I didn't do it. They had it all ready to go, budget, everything. And at the last minute, the director cracked up and walked off. I mean, at the very last moment. And so that killed the project. It took 7 or 8 years to make that movie. So anything can go wrong until they start filming. So just, I hope it's Justin Bateman. I hope it's the partner. I hope it works fine.
Did you, and I remember we talked about this a little bit, but people watching may not remember, but you're a totally hands-off point of view where the movies were made. But I know Gene Hackman died recently, and I know he was the star of The Chamber. Did you ever meet Gene Hackman? Did you meet any of the stars that did those movies?
Unfortunately, no. He was in three of my adaptations. He was in The Firm. He was the
Yeah,
one of the big firm lawyers. He's Tom Cruise's mentor,
yeah.
Avery Tollison. He was in The Chamber, which was not a good movie. He was also in Runaway Jury, which he played a great character. And I went to all three. I didn't go see The Chamber because I knew it was not going to be any good. I didn't like the screenplay. But I went to see The Firm several times in Memphis when they were filming. Runaway Jury the same in L.A. when they filmed it. And I'd go meet they invite me to come meet the cast and the
Yeah.
directors and producers, and it's always fun. I never got a chance to meet Gene Hackman, and that's a big regret.
All right. One of the things I'm gonna hold this up again, but see, I'm prepared. The best mystery stories of the year.
Yep.
Did you enjoy? It says edited with an introduction by John Grisham.
Sure.
How much input did you have in that? And
It's
then
really good.
and I
Quick,
want to refer to your comments too.
well, I'm the editor for this year. They do one every year, and a friend named Amor Tolles, a great writer.
Oh yeah.
I know him. He sent me a note a couple of years back. So I just served as editor of Otto Pimsler's Mysterious Bookshop, series books. He said it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it. Otto's a great guy, and do it if you want to. So I did. And I told Otto I was not going to read 1,000 short stories. I told him, you screen them and give me your top, I think top 25. They're all short stories. And I'm happy to read those. And I'll pick out I think top 10 or top 15. He picked out his top 10 or 15, and we put that in the book. But it was a very pleasant experience.
That first one, the Golden Road, or something about the guy that kind of has the one night stand with the. Well, I don't want to give it away, I guess, but anyway, that's a great one to get your interest in.
There's some
One
very
of the
good
things you
stories.
said in that book that I did not remember from our early days was that you were actually 2 for 2 defending real murder trials when you were a defense lawyer in South Haven, and you got them both off on self-defense.
Yeah. Yeah. My first murder case was just a few months after law school, and I had no business being in the courtroom. It was not a capital murder. It was, as we used to say, plain old-fashioned murder, simple murder. And it was a honky-tonk shooting that went bad, and everybody had a gun. So it was easy. It was easy to prove that it was self-defense. I won 2 murder trials in the first 3 years of being a lawyer, all court appointed, all small fees. I got paid $1,000 for each one of them. But it really piqued my appetite for trial work, and I was dreaming of being a big time trial lawyer. That was my dream back in those days when I was 30 years old. And I had heroes. Some of the great trial lawyers in the state were still very active, and that's kind of what I was thinking about, but never got close.
Well, a number of those short stories were murders that seemed to make sense. They didn't seem like, yeah, some people just deserved it. And then the one in Alaska with a euthanized or assisted deaths was fascinating. There were some really, really great short stories in there. I encourage people to read it.
Speaking of great criminal defense lawyers in Mississippi, I was in law school a couple of years ahead of you, but Steve Farice was in my class. Steve, the Farices, and
all of them, all the Farices in Ashland, Mississippi. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a very high profile defense murder case of a woman who was a reverend in Tennessee, was married to a reverend, and I called Steve. He was on the Today Show about it. It was a big high profile. And I called him and I said, "Well, Steve, good job." I said, I thought you represented Mississippi really well. You're well spoken, but people still think a lot of us are, barefoot and can't put a sentence together. And well done, and I'm proud of you. I said, what do you think the toughest part of your defense is going to be? And he said, "Well, Jack, I'm gonna have to get around that the 4 bullet holes in his back."
Yeah. Could be a problem.
He said, "I think he just turned real quickly." He turned real quickly. Anyway,
Hey,
good time.
I've got a question for you on the widow. It seems to me that
I got to sell some books.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, and you have always been welcome to tell me when I'm incorrect. So feel free again. It seems to me that it was a little bit more like A Time to Kill in the way that you generated characters. It was 174 pages before you got to the big event, which was surprising to me. Normally that happens in the first page for you. You do, not that you have a certain formula, but it's 40 chapters, 10 pages long. And this one had 2 and 3 page chapters, which made me just stay up at night, because I just thought, well, I mean, I can read 6 more pages. Well, I can read 4 more pages. And I just kept reading until 2 in the morning. So I just talk a little bit about this book, and it is different. I love the book, by the way. You've written a lot of books that I love. I think I put this in the top 5. It's just a wonderful book, but it is different than your normal.
It's the big difference. It's the first time I've written a pure mystery, a real whodunit. And all my books, or most of my books, are about suspense, or suspense novels, thrillers, call them what you want to call them. And so they all have little mysteries. They all have questions of who done it. They have questions of how's it going to end? Who's going to get the money? Who's going to get killed? There's always some mystery and violence and countdowns and backshadowing and all that kind of stuff that goes into a story, but not a real mystery. And I wanted to try something different. I had a good story. It took a while to develop. And I love the idea of a lawyer being on trial. And so you get to play out all the courtroom stuff, which I really enjoy, and see, let the juries love, readers love to think about cases and guilt and how they would react if they were on the jury. And it was all an effort to string you along with a real mystery and have a surprise ending that works. And so mysteries are a little bit different, because you have to have a certain amount of false clues, some red herrings, some suspicious stuff that's not really, all these things go into it. So you have to keep all these balls in the air for a while before you get to the final ending and the final answer. That it was a challenge, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought the red herrings were fun too. And again, we can't say too much about, but the characters. I mean, the lawyer himself, this 42-year-old guy, and his of course his relation with his wife. People will find out about that. Then his secretary. That again, it's hard to say anything about it without not letting some surprise out. But I mean,
yeah, there were two people.
The red herrings were pretty.
Didn't do it.
The red herrings were pretty red. Some of the, and I think maybe my favorite scene in the book, and I'll just tiptoe into it.
Be careful.
Was the son and Wally, the son meeting with the other lawyer. That was a great scene.
I thought it was hilarious.
Did that happen to you? It ain't. Is that?
No, it's not revealing anything. The scene is when Simon prepares a will for the widow, for Eleanor Barnett. She had just signed one a month before, written by Wally, a lawyer across the street. And in that will, Wally had very carefully, almost secretly, named himself the beneficiary for almost a $500,000 gift. She had plenty of cash, plenty of money, plenty of stocks. And Wally, being the lawyer, saw the opportunity to take advantage of her and her, her age and senility, and write himself into the will, which I saw one time when I was a lawyer. And so the wayward son comes to town looking for money, and he finds out that Wally represents his stepmother, the widow. And he goes into Wally's office one night drunk and just beats the crap out of him and puts him in the hospital. At the time, no one knew, Wally sure didn't know, that will was not valid.
No.
The will had been superseded by the one across the street, written by our hero. It's a really funny scene.
Yeah, that was a great scene, and the
it is
his secretary coming to the rescue was pretty good too.
It is a good reminder to check your wills and make sure they're updated, because you can have some crazy things happen at the end of life if you hadn't figured that out. And we've had some crazy stories about that. But
Scott, that happens everywhere. I don't care where you are.
Right.
Something about a death, an estate, some money being passed down. Maybe it's not a small amount of money. The heirs jockeying for position. The lawyers get involved. The allegations of undue influence by whoever was in charge of the last will. That's fairly common stuff in this country. And estate fights bring the estate cases bring out the biggest fights, brings out the worst behavior in people, because they think they're going to finally get some big check for nothing, something for nothing, and they go to war. They hire lawyers and provides all types of good material for us.
Agatha Christie made a killing with with a lot of those. Everybody sit around the dining room table listening to the lawyer read the will, and then what happened after that. That was one of her favorite constructs.
All right, what can you tell me about the alternate ending that didn't get in there? Because you have talked about that publicly, so I'm not bringing up anything. But you had a different ending, and Renee didn't like it.
Yeah, let's don't go there. That's I think that reveals too much.
Okay.
It was a very risky ending. I knew that when I finished it, and I knew that when she started reading the book, and she reacted badly, and I understood that. And so I said, okay, I'll send it to my editor in New York. He reacted badly. I said, okay. I showed it to my publisher in New York. She reacted badly. I can't fight all three of them. And when they line up against me, I'm helpless. So I had to keep writing. I had to find a new ending.
Well, and some of your books have different endings. Some emotional, some wonderful. I mean, a lawyer ended up, on a beach in the Caribbean. I mean, those kind of dream things. But I'll tell you, the hardest book that of your whole career for me was Sully, the Sudanese basketball player.
That was a tough ending.
And the Lynn Bias kind of experience on that one. And
it was directly inspired by what happened to Lenny Bias. He was
Yeah.
Yeah.
he was the same age as Michael Jordan, University of Maryland, and they were rivals in every sense of the word. And people, scouts and coaches deemed Len Bias to be just as good as Michael Jordan. And I think they got drafted this one same year, maybe a year apart. And Lenny was a good kid who did not fool around with drugs. And he got drafted by the Celtics in the first round. I think he was a second overall pick, and went back to College Park, Maryland, went to his apartment, and some friends had drugs. And I don't know if he's trying to celebrate or what, but he OD'd. He died immediately. And it was, or the next day. And it was one of the most tragic stories in all of sports. So that was how Sully was going to end anyway. The book,
Yeah.
we could talk about that. It's been out for 4 years.
Right.
So, but I love college basketball. I'd written two football books,
Yeah.
and I waited and waited and waited for a baseball story. I finally got Calico Joe, and I realized there are no great. I couldn't find any great or good basketball novels. There's a ton of baseball novels. The history of baseball has been well documented through literature. Less so for football, but still a fair number of novels. Almost nothing for basketball. And so I wanted to write a really good basketball novel. That's how Sully was born.
Pat Conroy wrote a great memoir of his basketball career at the Citadel. I don't know if you read that or not. He was
My losing season.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was a great wordsmith. He spoke in Tupelo once, and he had a lavalier mic. He walked up and back across the stage at the library, and at the end of
Not as many people as you had there.
no, not 700. No. You got
say.
Pat Conroy covered.
Yeah.
But at the end of the meeting, somebody asked, he's got questions, and some woman said, "Do you realize your fly is unzipped?" All right, I was going to show this since you mentioned sports books. This is particularly favorite to me here in Mississippi, and of course your state. But the audio book. This is a copy of the audio book. The only audio book that I've saved of yours because it's autographed by you and Jack Crystal.
Yeah.
And I know all the Mississippi State people, or even Ole Miss people, just Mississippians, just his voice to have that on this CD is really cool.
One of the greatest voices in sports. You think about great announcers. You think about Vin Scully, and I'm not sure the college guys, but Al Michaels, some of the guys today. But Jack Crystal calling a football game was just incredible. Too bad he didn't get many wins.
No.
You watched Mississippi State football for 50 years. That took a lot of tenacity.
Did you? I know you still follow baseball. I don't know how. Did you happen to stay up for 18 innings of the World Series game 2 nights ago?
Not going to do it. I'm pulling for the Blue Jays, but I'm not watching the games. Jack, I've got to where I can't sit around for 2 or 3 hours and watch a game. I'll do it occasionally on a Saturday for an big SEC game, because I still love SEC football. The matchups are just, almost one per week. Great games, unlike any other conference. Of course, I'm biased. I can watch a game or two on the weekends or have the game on the television, but sitting up at night watching a 2 or 3 hour baseball game or a football game, I'm just not going to do it. I'll watch a little bit of college basketball on television because it's going to be over in 2 hours. And we go to a lot of college basketball games here at UVA and UNC. I love the College World Series. I like the regionals, super regionals. I follow that, but I can't just sit around, and I'd rather be reading a book.
How are you doing as an unofficial commissioner of Little League Baseball? You still doing that job?
Still own the ballpark. I'd be happy to sell it to you for a real cheap price. I've had it for 30 years, and built it 30 years ago. Just had our 30th season, and we have 500 kids every year in the ballpark, and I'm the full-time commissioner because nobody else wants a job, and I'm there all the time. I don't fix the fields anymore, but I take care of the draft, coaches meetings, closing.
I was going to ask, because you used to, zero-turn lawnmowers were a big deal for you back in the early days of that.
I've cut many a baseball field and missed those days.
Well, your fans, just tell a little bit what else is outside of writing. What have you and Renee, your family, what have you enjoyed lately? What are you looking forward to in the next
Well,
Years away.
like most people our ages, once your kids get married and leave home, life slows down a little bit, and and you have more time to travel, more time to spend together, more time to take care of family members, but also waiting for the grandkids. And we have four now. Our daughter Shay has two in Raleigh. Our son Ty has two here in Tupelo. I mean, I'm sorry, in Charlottesville, and we see them all the time, almost every week. Just spend a lot of time with them, but yeah, more travel, and enjoying life, but also working. I wrote 1,000 words this morning. That's what I do every morning. I'm always writing. If I'm home, I'll write 1,000 words early in the morning and then take off for the rest of the day. But I'm working, not hard, but
What's your average word per book?
100,000,
How many?
100,000.
100,000?
Goes 100,000 every time out. And I'm always somewhere around there. That's all I want to read. I don't want to read a 500-page novel. And when you write suspense and mystery and thrillers, the books should not be that thick. They need to be pretty concise and fast. That's what readers want.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate your generosity of your time and helping us celebrate our 120th year. And
I want to show him something before we finish up.
Scott wants to do something.
This is that's a picture of Dakin and you years ago, and she just got married 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah, and yeah, that's right. So I'll pull up the picture of her wedding. While you do want to say something about your upcoming Shaken?
Yeah, let's talk about Shaken. I've got my note right there, Shaken. We're taking orders for it. It's Reed's Gumtree Bookstore right now, pre-order.
Well, don't take too many. I'm not finished with it. I'm not sure when I'm going to finish it. It's a wrongful conviction case out of Texas, a death row case involving a guy named Robert Robertson, who's been on death row for 22 years for a crime that never occurred. And he got a stay. Last year, he came within 90 minutes of being executed. This year, it came within 7 days of being executed. And the court finally opened the door for his lawyers to go back to court to prove with a ton of scientific and medical evidence that there was no crime and he's not guilty. That stopped the execution, but he's Texas, so he's got a long way to go before he gets out. It's just a fascinating, as I said, these stories are incredible. And I'm writing and researching the story now, and not sure when I'm going to finish it because I'm not sure what the ending is. It's just going to take some time for it to play out.
And of course this happens in the states where it has to be unanimous anyway. But one of the points that you make that is so, I think maybe surprising to people that think, well, you only need 9 out of 12 a civil case or something. But how many are the unanimous that every single person on the jury is convinced that the killer was guilty?
Yeah, I'm on the board of the Innocence Project, and we have our number is now 375 exonerations in the past 30 years, all by DNA. So these are ironclad exonerations of innocent men. And it's amazing how you look back and every one of them, every exoneration involved a defendant sitting in court, facing police and prosecutors who were not playing fair, witnesses who were lying, and the jury believed them, and a unanimous juries convicted all 375, and 16 went to death row. So it's a broken system. That's why we should not have the death penalty because too many mistakes are made. People just make too many mistakes, and that's why we advocate against it.
Well, you talked about the day that you turned your opinion on the death penalty. Do you remember that story that you told about what happened to make you change your mind on the death penalty, or at least solidify your thoughts?
It took place at Parchman in 1994. I was on death row researching the chamber. I'd been there several times. I knew the guards, I knew the inmates, the executioner, the warden. I'd been over there enough to know everybody. And I never met the chaplain. And my last visit there, we were sitting in the holding room, which is next to the death room with a gas chamber before lethal injection. The gas chamber's in one small room. and we were next door to it. It's where the inmate goes for the last hour of his life, and he sits there on a little bunk bed in a cold room with his chaplain and or his lawyer. And if he wants to talk to either one of them or a chaplain or whatever, he's already had his last meal. And it was a cold, damp day in January, and death row is a miserable place anyway, but in weather like that, it was especially bad. And we were just talking about this. He was a retired Baptist minister, and working on death row. And he asked me if I was a Christian, and I said, I am. Yes, I am. He said, do you think Jesus would approve of what we do here? And there was no way to say yes. There was no way to answer the question yes, because Jesus would not approve of killing. He taught forgiveness and redemption. He didn't teach retribution. And that's when I realized the death penalty was wrong, is wrong, and I've been opposed to it ever since.
Well, you've done a lot of good work. As I said, made a lot of people aware of it that wouldn't be otherwise. Well, you've been generous with your time again, John. Thank you. It's good to see you even by Zoom in person, and you look great. Please tell Renee and your family hello and thank you, and best wishes to you and from all your fans down here in Tupelo and around the South and the world. Keep writing and hang in there.
I love Tupelo. Love you guys. Love the store. Love Mr. Big Jack, and congrats on 120 years.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
See you.
Good to see you.
Take care. Bye.